Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purna Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om. Hari Om. Namaste. Today I am going to connect you to the 8 limbs of yoga, and we are connecting to the first limb, Yama. Why 8? Is 8 the number having any significance? Yes, the number 8 having a very great significance here in teaching. There are 4 directions for us to measure the universe and to understand the universe. And generally, even though it is the shape is ellipse of the universe, as long as we are living in the planet Earth, staying in the world, just for our convenience sake, we are understanding this world which is in the universe in 4 directions, like east face, west face, north face, south face, like that. So there are 4 directions for us. For every corner of this direction, the east corner is again there is southeast and northeast corner. Like that, for all the directions there are corners. By that we are getting how many directions? 8 directions we are getting if we include the corners of the 4 directions. That means the wisdom from all the corners, the wisdom from all the directions, the wisdom of the from the universe, the wisdom from the universal consciousness is the main aim of this Ashtanga Yoga. If you connect from the wisdom from these 8 corners, finally the shape of the universe is ellipse. The shape of the Om is ellipse. We are connecting to Om. We are connecting to that ellipse. But to connect to that, we need awareness. This awareness we are getting by connecting to these 4 corners with awareness, and being aware from all the sides, from all the places, from all the zones, and seeking wisdom. For all the 8 corners, 8 guardians were ruling according to the Vedic tradition. Agni is one of the guardian, Varuna is one of the guardian, Nairuti is one of the guardian. Like that, these are all guardians. There were 8 guardians, there are 8 guardians. All the time we invoke, at the time of doing 5 rituals also we invoke these 8 guardians from all over the 8 corners. There is a guardian who is ruling all the 8 guardians. There is a guardian who is the ruler for again these 8 guardians. Even though he is one of the 8 guardians, he is getting a status of a guardian, and he is considered as Yama. Yama is having a special authority, a guiding force who is giving authenticity for this, is a head for these all guardians. And first Ashtadikpalaka he called, he is Dikpalaka. Ashta, for 8 guardians he is getting a name called Dikpalaka. He is a head for all the 8 guardians from 8 corners. So, 8 corners in the universe having preceding energies. For all these energies there is a head of that energy. The name of that head of the energy we are calling it as Yama. Yama means a special energy in the form also. He can take form, he is formless and formful also. When he is staying, when we are seeing him in form, he is coming as a human form in the name of Yama with high self control. He is a person of full of control. Yama means embodiment of self control. That is the reason the guardian for all the 8 guardians around the universe. And the power, such powerful energy, we are giving the title to him as Yama, and in the Vedic tradition we are worshipping him. This Yama is considered as the best and foremost greatest teachers of yoga wisdom. He taught yoga to his disciple called Nachiketa, who is 8 years old, just a small boy. He asked Yama, he approached this Yama and asked, what is the ultimate aim of life, which makes us happy all the time? What is that? Please tell me. What happens after death? What it is? It's like a mystery. What it means? He asked. Yama is the head of all the guardians because he chased the mystery of death. He who chased the mystery of death, he who knows the secrets of death, and who is beyond death, who attained immortality by self control, the name for him is called Yama. Why he got Yama? Because he is having Samyama. He who is having Samyama is becoming Yama. We can also become Yama if you are having highest Samyama. Every individual is divinely potential. Every soul is divinely potential, said by the sage Swami Vivekananda, said by a great seeker saint Swami Vivekananda. Our soul is divinely potential, potentially divine it is. So, consciousness is one taking many names and forms. That consciousness, when it, the self control, when it takes the human form, when the self control itself takes a human form, the name of that form is called Yama, and teaching us the significance of self control. Samyama means control. The word Yama is coming from the word Samyama. Samyama means control. Yama having control over 5 great virtues, 5 great vows he practiced in his life, and he acquired self control, so that he chased the mystery of the death, and he chased the fear. Death is happening because of fear. As long as there is fear, there will be death. If you overcome the fear in our life, there will be no death, death cannot be seen. He who overcome the fear, he is Yama. How to become fearless? To become fearless, we need to practice 5 virtues in our life. We need to control 5 aspects in our life through which we can become fearless like Yama. Yama taught fearlessness to his disciple Nachiketa. So, we have to understand the significance of control, and when we follow these virtues in our life, we will become fearless. The main aim of yoga philosophy is making us fearless and making us desireless. If you become fearless and if you become desireless, and then with this high spirit, we can strengthen our body. For what purpose we have to strengthen our body? Body is a temple. To realize human body as a temple and to realize the God within. The God within is the energy. The energy within is the soul. The soul within is that located at the right direction of the human body, that is spiritual heart. Yama is the ruler of the hell according to the Vedic terminology. Hell means what? How he is the ruler of the hell? That means he is beyond hell, but those who made their mind as hell, who made their skull as hell, and because of the wrong deeds and because of their unaware, the actions which they made with unawareness, according to that, we are making our skull as hell, through which there is suffering. So, Yama is the guardian for this suffering, and he is just judging. In Christian literature, there is a concept of judgment day. Finally, one energy is judging. Here, the concept is Yama. There are different planes in the universe, we have to understand. There are different planes in the universe. According to the power of the mind, there are different planes, several upper planes and certain lower planes. And there is also a plane, because for every human being, 12 inches up to the head, it was said that there is a karmashaya. There is a karmic energy, all the actions are getting. There is a CC camera for every human being at every 12 inches up. This is called Dvadashara, 12 inches up above the head, and there is a subtle body. There is an unknown CC camera. All the actions what we are doing mentally, verbally, and also with thoughts, words and deeds are getting recorded there. According to that, for the actions, so we are getting the next lives. According to the actions which were recorded, we are getting the lives. All the actions, every word is getting recorded. Every thought pattern is getting recorded. Whatever thoughts, whatever deeds we are doing, whatever words we are uttering, everything is getting recorded. According to that, we are getting the next lives. This life is also according to that reason. So, there is a judgment faculty for all these thoughts and that, and who is granting the next lives, and who for these kind of actions, there is a judgment for our actions, that the right judge for all our good actions, and the person who is acting as a judge for our right actions and wrong actions, right deeds and wrong deeds, is that Yama. So, if you surrender to Yama, and it is that surrendering, you surrender to Yama, that is that we are realizing our consciousness, then that is the way, that itself is a virtuous action. The very virtuous action in our life is understanding the judge and connecting to that highest consciousness. That consciousness is watching everything. We cannot deceive the universal consciousness. Consciousness is receiving everything. Pure consciousness is receiving everything. So, whatever the actions we are doing, but it is untouched, but we are touched because there is a Maya inside. As there is illusion, we are touched with all the actions. As a pure consciousness is untouched, it is that. But the same conscious, from the pure consciousness, we born as a consciousness. As we born as a consciousness, we are unable to realize that pure consciousness, even though our true nature is pure consciousness. The problem is we are already enlightened. No need to try for enlightenment, my dear friends. We are already enlightened. We are already liberated. Meditation is not a technique to practice. Samadhi is not a technique to practice. Yoga is not a technique to practice. It is our true nature. If it is our true nature, what is a technique as it is to practice? No. Happiness is our true nature. Yoga is our true nature. So, already we are enlightened. We are already liberated. Then what is the purpose of doing all these things? Because even though we liberated, we forgot that we are liberated. We forgot that we are liberated because of Maya, because of illusion, because of ignorance. So that we forgot. Again, remembering that is yoga. In the name of these masters, by surrendering to this consciousness, so Yama, the same pure consciousness itself taking human forms for helping us to memorize and to reconnect to that consciousness. To get rid of this amnesia, enlightened masters taking human form and coming and helping. From ages to ages it is happening. Yama is such an enlightened yogi coming in the human form and helping us to reconnect to that consciousness. Yama means it is the energy itself, and if you feel this energy in human form, it is the person of judge, and it is the embodiment of self-control. This the first limb of 8 limbs of yoga is Yama. The second is Niyama. Third is Asana. Fourth is Pranayama. Fifth is Pratyahara. Sixth is Dharana. Seventh is Dhyana. Eighth is Samadhi. Among these 8 limbs, the first 3 limbs having a continuity, that is, these are the 8 steps of practice what Yogi Patanjali recommended for us to reconnect to that consciousness, pure consciousness. But these 8 steps are not step by step practice, one after other to step in. Certain steps having simultaneous practice, that is, to practice these 8 steps, we have to step in first 3 at once. Yama, Niyama, Asana are the steps you have to follow at once. Pranayama is a sequential step to follow after asana. That means only after getting perfection in asana, one have to practice pranayama. At least half an hour without pain, by making our spine and head straight, one have to sit for a period of time. If it is possible, then one can connect to pranayama, can do experiments with his breath, can do experiments with water, can do experiments with light. Prana means not only breath, it is light, it is air, it is water, it is all pervading energy. At least half an hour one have to sit. The main aim of asana is making you to sit. The meaning of asana means sitting only. Yeah. It doesn't mean that there are no other asanas which is not making you standing and sitting and in lying down position. Inversions are there. If you ask me question, yes. Asanas are divided into many groups, especially all the asanas divided into 3 groups, like relaxative asanas like Shavasana, Makarasana coming under relaxative asanas group. Meditative asanas are coming under meditative asanas group, and different kinds of asanas in the name of innumerable asanas through which we are using our spine, forward bending and backward bending, by turning our spine and by twisting our spine and by making inversions to our spine and by molding our spine, we are doing innumerable asanas. All they are coming under the group of cultural asanas. But among all the three groups, the meditative asanas group standing high. Any selective meditative asana which is suitable for you is considered as asana. Yes. The main purpose of all the asanas, why we are doing, is making our spine, head and neck straight. To make our spine, head and neck straight, we are doing all the innumerable number of asanas. One fine day, we have to sit for a period of time without movement. Prayatna Shaidhilya Ananta Samapatibhyam. Once we settled, we have to repeatedly instruct our mind not to have any movement in the practice. If there is no movement in the practice, there is no other practice also in your practice. Only the practice which you choose for sitting, in that posture you have to establish for a period of time without rising, getting up from that pose. That is becoming a asana. Sthira Sukham asanam. You will achieve victory of asana when you sit 3 hours without pain and without disturbance. Those who sit in a comfortable meditative pose, it is called victory of asana. He who sits for 8 hours without break is considered as yogi. He who sits 16 hours in an asana without pain is considered as a Mahayogi. He who sits for an asana and forget the brain, that is, forget the mind, and he just connecting to that consciousness itself and remaining in that, the idea of body is disappearing from his mind. Then he is becoming one with the mind. That mind is becoming one with the soul, and he is becoming one with the soul, so that he is sitting for constantly for long time. Whatever happening in front of the body, as he is just not thinking about it at all. Such kind of yogis are there. If you ask me question, yes, my dear friends. A yogi who lived just 50 years back, just 70, 80 years back, and who lived until 1950s, such a yogi is Ramana Maharshi, was sitting like that in Tiruvannamalai. He left his home at the age of 16. He came to Tiruvannamalai. When he came to Tiruvannamalai, he was meditating in the temple in the Patala Linga. Patala means down. There was a shrine, and going there and surrendered to the Shiva and was sitting, selected a pose, established it in that pose, and was sitting there and closed his eyes and went deep. When the scorpions are coming and squeezing the blood from him, he was unshaked with unshakable energy, and he was sitting there and without any movement meditating. When mosquitoes biting, it doesn't know that what's happening. When snakes biting, he was just there, but he was not dead. Some yogis came. There was a yogi, Seshadri Swami. He came, realized his condition. Oh, he was in great samadhi. If you are in such a state of samadhi, the consciousness takes your care, no worries. His consciousness connecting to that Seshadri Swami's consciousness, and Seshadri Swami yogi understanding the pure consciousness in him and protecting his body from animals, from bugs, from mosquito bites, and from other humans. Some humans, there are some animals in humans, they always throw stones on them, other humans, and they bother them. It is always. Like that, there are some young boys, they want to throw stones on his body because he's not moving. They were throwing stones. Some passing urine on him. Yes. All these, there are some animals in human beings. If animals doing these kind of acts, it is okay. But some humans, when they were doing this, we have to think. He was meditating like that. He was an exemplary person who established in asana. After 18 years of remaining in silence, he opened his eyes. He was opening his eyes in the middle, but after its complete opening, I can say, he's opened the third eye also after 18 years of meditation. And but he was in silence for a long time, not speaking. He was in silence. For 18 years, he was in silence. Later on, he was first time speaking to his disciple Ganapati Muni. He was speaking. First time he opened his mouth in front of a yogi called Ganapati Muni. Ganapati Muni he was. Asana means you need perfection in one meditative pose. To get perfection in one meditative pose, we need many asanas. We need preparation. We need to prepare our spine with the asanas what you are doing. The spine, head and neck should remain straight. For this purpose we are doing asanas. With this awareness, if you practice asanas, they work. Without the awareness, if you practice asanas, how much asanas we practice, the ultimate purpose won't be served. No. To practice asanas without a proper conduct, it is not possible. So to get perfection in asana, to realize the real energy of asanas, to experience the real power of our mind through asanas, one have to practice a social conduct and personal conduct in his life, in their lives. The purpose of attitudinal training, very well said by the yogi Patanjali. So, Yama, Niyama are the first two limbs concerned with attitudinal training. These are 10 great vows. These are 10 great virtues to practice in our life. Yama, Niyama. Yama and Niyama are certain kind of rules, especially 10 rules and regulations, which we have to practice at once. Yama, Niyama, Asana at once one have to practice. Pranayama is a sequential practice. Only after attaining perfection in asana, one can practice pranayama. At least 30 minutes, one have to sit stable and comfortable in the pose. If he realizes that stability and comfortability in that asana, and if he realizes the comfort and stability in the asana, then only he can understand, he or she can understand the purpose of pranayama, can experience the energy of prana flow within. Pranayama means what? Ayama means control. Prana means vital energy. It is a combination of two words. Pranayama is a combination of two words. Prana means the vital energy. Ayama means control. It is that prana controlling us always. That is the reason births and deaths are happening, as prana is controlling us. If we voluntarily starting controlling the prana, then we are connecting to the roots of prana. So pranayama is that voluntarily controlling the life force is called pranayama. This comes only after establishing in asana at least for 30 minutes of time. We should know how to sit first comfortably without making movement of our head, neck and spine, and without knee pains. Then pratyahara. Pratyahara is considered as the sensory control. Senses play a very key role in human life. The senses we need to control. There are 5 sense organs in the human body. There are 5 motor organs in the human body. Not only sense organs, motor organs are ruling us. When the senses are ruling our mind, it is not possible to control our mind. If we rule the senses, then mind is in our control. So pratyahara is a interlinked limb with all the other limbs. It is by linked with yama, linked with niyama, linked with asana. Why we are practicing yama? For pratyahara. Why we are practicing niyama? For pratyahara. Why we are practicing asana? For pratyahara. For asana, pranayama, everything for pratyahara. Dharana, dhyana for pratyahara. Samadhi also for pratyahara. These are my words and also the words of enlightened masters. The commentators who has written the commentary, the Narayana Tirtha, Yoga Siddhanta Chandrika, who is an enlightened master, after attaining such a state of higher consciousness with his realization, by doing highest efforts in his life, by keeping all his strengths and efforts and control and taming this uncontrollable mind, after getting victory over the mind, saying these beautiful words, how senses are what you call tricky, how senses trap our mind. We need to control them. So, the commentators like Sadashiva, Narayana Tirtha, Vyasa, Vachashpati Mishra, Vijnana Bhikshu, these are all emphasizing on Pratyahara. Yogi Patanjali strictly talking on Pratyahara. You are practicing Yoga Nidra. Why Yoga Nidra? Yoga Nidra is a Pratyahara technique. It's the practice of Pratyahara. From the toe to the skull, you are giving auto suggestions to your brain that you are perfect, you are happy, you are relaxed. These auto suggestion philosophy is none other than Pratyahara. In the Vedanta text called Varaha Upanishad, we are having the reference of 18 pressure points in your body called as territory chakras, and through which we are controlling all. The Vijnana Bhairava Tantra is speaking more than 100 pressure points in your body. These are all the mini chakras only in the body, subdivided pressure points in the body, subdivision of pressure points in the body. We need control of all the pressure points in the body. They were not in our control because of the lacking sensory control. Pratyahara is the limb, interlinked limb for all the limbs. This is the way to understand 8 limbs of yoga. It is interconnected up to the first level of samadhi. This pratyahara having the chances, any time we can fall from from our goal. Even though after reaching a destination, if you are unable to hold there for a long time, we fall down. So attaining first rank is maybe easy, but holding there for a long time may not be possible for many. So, achieving a height is one task. After achieving a great height, holding there for a long time permanently is another big thing. Achieving this first level, until reaching the first level, you can see pratyahara. If you are unable to go beyond this level 1 samadhi, 100% positivity also, there are chances to make us downfall. It is the game by sattva, rajas and tamas. Sattva, rajas and tamas are all associated with the senses. Senses playing a vital role. That is the reason we are seeing all the three components in the human body. Sattva, rajas and tamas. When we have to always we have to say always that sensory balance to our mind, that sensory balance, it is most important. These kind of auto suggestions, instructions we have to give to our mind always. It is needed. Even though if you attain a stage of 100% sattva, there are chances again to get downfall from this 100% sattva balance. When we are just not aware, it leads to rajas. That rajas leads to tamas. Many yogis, they fall, they have fallen from this first state of samadhi because of lacking pratyahara, even attaining such state. Holding there and holding at the senses is not an easy task for all, even for meditators. We have to be very aware. If you are not aware, the name of awareness is samadhi. If you are not aware, there are chances to get a downfall. What is downfall? Downfall is that nothing is happening harm. The downfall is for what? The downfall is for what? The downfall is for the body and mind. Downfall is that we are already liberated, what I am saying. We are already liberated. But downfall in the sense what it means is that again there is a possibility of birth and death. If you are taking birth and death again means it is that not complete liberation. No. With awareness taking human forms is different. Without awareness taking human forms is different. There are different ways of explanation of dharana, dhyana, samadhi. I will explain to you as 12 seconds of concentration as dharana and 2.5 minutes concentration as dhyana and 30 minutes concentration as samadhi. Concentration 30 minutes is that called samadhi. If you concentrate 30 minutes, it is samadhi. So for 30 minutes, we need concentration of 3 hours sitting in the beginning. That 3 hours sitting, that 3 hours relaxation in a sitting pose will makes you to 2.5 minutes concentration. 1 hour sitting in a meditative pose, at least in a day, morning and evening, if you do it for a period of 6 months, there is a possibility of 12 seconds control. It is not for all same like, because there are very evolved souls in the same human form. If there are already meditators who born itself as meditators, this mind is a continuous process. Those, when the meditators are again taking the birth of a meditator's birth, that is, this is a continuous process. For them, maybe their mind is in their control with 2.5 minutes control. For them, their mind is already in their control. So, as it is in their control, just not getting it from the downfall, just connecting from the mind to higher awareness, that the meditators can do. It depends on us that what kind of energy we are carrying. It is just as long as we are with rajas and tamas, mind is distracted. So, for beginners, it is that this kind of steps are required. Pratyahara is interlinked, and after pranayama you can say that dharana is that. Pratyahara means at least 50% of sensory control. It leads you to dharana. It leads to an inward journey. Inward journey means in this 12 seconds of concentration is required in the name of dharana, and 2.5 minutes concentration is required for dhyana, and this is 8 hours awareness I am saying. 8 hours awareness in a day on pure consciousness is required at least to realize 30 minutes concentration. 3 hours awareness at least a human being required for a period of 6 months. We need to be like that. That means after that all the days are going to be like that only. For 2.5 minutes concentration one can experience, sure. The second level of samadhi is different. I am talking only about the first level of samadhi, 30 minutes. After that, the second level is different. That cannot be explained, have to be experienced. You are going beyond the time limitations there. The time is not existing in that. The time is different. That appears differently in front of the master, enlightened master. That many years will just fly in front of him. He just feel that many years as just 5 minutes. Feel he will get in samadhi. There is no real time. And as long as there is mind, there is time. As long as there is time, there is mind. If you go beyond time and space, there is no mind. To experience mindless state, it is called amanaska. We need to go beyond time. If you want to go beyond time and space, we need to know first the fourth dimension. Yoga knows the fourth dimension, that is the time and the space. So if you connect to that yoga, and naturally it takes you beyond time and beyond space, and finally connecting you to that pure consciousness. Yes. The science of fourth dimension is yoga. Yoga connects us to the fourth dimension. The length, width, and depth are the 3 dimensions. Through length, you can refer the karma yoga. Through width, you can connect to bhakti yoga. Through depth, you can connect to the royal yoga, which is the king of all the yogas. And by that, you can connect to the ultimate yoga as yoga. Okay. So what we need first is, we need a proper understanding of what yama and niyama are. Yama is a set of 5 rules. Niyama is a set of again 5 rules. I said to you, again coming to the point, yama. Yama is a set of 5 rules. Niyama is a set of 5 rules. What are the 5 rules coming under yama? Non-violence, truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, non-greed are the 5 rules and regulations explained for healthy living, explained for social integration, explained for social wellness. A man is a social animal, what Aristotle said. As long as we remain in the world, we need to be aware in the world, physical world, phenomenal world. And without awareness of understanding the physical conditions and regulations, we cannot turn as proper human beings. As born as a human being, the physical structure around, the world around, the consequences around, and the situations around, we need to know. We need to be aware, and we need balance of all these. Proper situational management one needs to know. A yogi need to manage situations. For what kind of situation, how to apply our mind, ego and intelligence, chitta. How to face the consequences, how to face the situations in our life. That is called dharma. That is called the law of life. That was well said by the yogi Yama by using the word Yama. By practicing these great virtues in our life, we are getting wonderful self-control. Through this control, you can control all the consequences. You can face all the consequences and situations in our life, and we will be relaxed and we will be balanced. The name of that balance is yoga. Any of the 8 limbs, they are like link websites connecting you to the main website Samadhi. If you are 100% established in Yama, this Yama connecting you to the first level of Samadhi. From that first level of Samadhi, we have to go to the second level. So all are like link websites connecting you to the 100% positivity, Niyama, Asana. So if you start with Asana, for example, this 100% of Asana, finally it will lead you to Niyama. Naturally, it connects you to Yama, it connects you to the Pranayama, it connects you to the Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi. Any of the 8 limbs with your interest, if you select, that limb is interlinking with all the other limbs. Finally, you are connecting to that first level of Samadhi. That first level of Samadhi again connecting you to that second level of Samadhi. It's happening, dear friends. Yesterday, our friend is sharing that why can't we control the mind? Yes, possible. If you start with meditation, yes, that meditation is called dhyana. That meditation itself is having inherited pratyahara. That pratyahara itself is connecting you to the retention of the breath, pranayama. That retention of the breath is the quintessence of asana. That asana, when you are established, naturally in that 100% of asanas control, there are no opposite pairs of dualities in front of you. When there are no opposite pairs of dualities in front of you, that is none other than Yama and Niyama. And when the Yama and Niyama are there, it is itself is 100% sensory control and mind control. When that is there inside, then it is that the first level of Samadhi only. With that you can connect to that second level. Any one of the limb if you select, and if you are 100% established in that limb with devotion, dedication and determination, if you practice any one of the 8 limbs properly, thoroughly, that definitely connects you to that ultimate goal, Samadhi. But the important thing is how much discipline you are having related to that limb, and how much wisdom you are possessing related to that limb, and what kind of efforts you are keeping related to that limb, and these are all the key factors. These are all the key factors. For example, if you are understanding asana as exercise, and if you are understanding asanas as gymnasium, and if you think that that is for our fitness and that makes us happy, yes, definitely. I am not saying anything wrong to gymnasium and exercises. They are having their own great value. So exercises are very great, and they really they will be helpful best practices. And gymnasium is wonderful, and they are having their own purpose, but they make us physically fit. But the main purpose of asana is not only making us physically fit. The main purpose of asana is mentally making you aware, and also neuromuscular coordination, what asanas are seeking for. And the concept of breathe, you are not seeing in exercises and gymnasium. These are the recent amendments in exercises and gymnastics by just imitating and following yoga. Yoga is the original source, and for all the modern practices, what in aerobics and all other practices, what they were doing in the recent times, the breathing technique what they are following in the yoga, now in aerobics and in gymnasium also they like to follow. But how much they follow, they are not focusing, they cannot focus on the parasympathetic nervous system, because all the practices in aerobics and in gymnasium, they meant for more inhalation, not for exhalation. And in these practices, so the pranayama practices with proper ratio, and the practices of asanas, they meant with a ratio. According to this breathing pattern which you apply in the asanas, they regularize your breath, they regularize your nervous system, and finally connecting you to ultimate goal called samadhi. Samadhi. So asanas mainly connects you to samadhi. 100% perfection in asanas, regularize your breath. You no need to practice breathing as a technique in asana. When you are practicing asana, your breathing is getting regularized. It is getting systematized. It is getting retention. Suspension of the breath is happening at the time of asana. That is the sign of understanding it is none other than pranayama. To get perfection in asana, it is always recommended for us to know what is yama and what is niyama. Without this awareness, we cannot shine. So, dear friends, now you understand the importance of yama and niyama in our life. Without these practices, we cannot move an inch. No. Without awareness of these two, no seeker can move an inch in the spiritual progress. No. Yama and niyama are such great vows we have to incorporate in our daily practice. All yoga seekers, they're starting their journey with asanas, but lacking the awareness of yama and niyama, not making their practice complete. To making our practice complete, the yoga seekers need the awareness of yama and niyama. One more time, I'm emphasizing on this point. Remember this is not for this class or for this course. This is for the life I'm speaking. I'm speaking this for the life, because yoga is a lifelong journey, is a complete way of life, what I'm sharing with you today. First, let me use all the 10 rules and regulations of yama and niyama, and let me focus on the first sublimb of yama. So, yama containing 5 sublimbs, niyama again containing 5 sublimbs. Now I am saying to you, any one of the sublimb of these yama and niyama, that means there are 10 rules and regulations. If any one of them, if you practice well, that also leading you to samadhi. If you are 100% in non-violence, leading you to the samadhi, like same truthfulness, non-stealing, continence, non-greed, and all. Cleanliness, contentment, austerity, self-study, and self-surrender. All these are containing 10 rules and regulations. Cleanliness is godliness. Contentment is the best policy. That's what Yogi Patanjali is saying for us, addressing to us. Austerity is the greatest tapas, is considered as tapas. Tapas is the purification. We need purification. We need purity. All the practices which we are doing with awareness for purification coming under tapas, austerity. We need study, spiritual study, than reading mythological texts, than reading novels, than reading many magazines, than reading many materialistic short stories and stuff. Reading the value-based, structure-wise spiritual texts like Bible, like Quran, like Bhagavad Gita, like Avesta, any kind of philosophical text, even it looks like religious. Bible is not a religious book. It's a philosophical text, what I say. Quran also. Religious texts which are practicing since many hundreds of years with awareness having value. Those books having value so that people recognizing this value and studying. Still now, if you publish a Bible, that will get sold very easily. Many publications of Bible even happening even now. If you make a small book, maybe there are very less chances to sell that book. But Bible, if you make, many people they buy. And why it is that till now you no need to market Bible. If you just publish, and there is worldwide market for that Bible, everyone, because they're taking into their hearts. That's such kind of books having value in their hearts, and they stand permanently. These books are Bible. These books are like Quran. These books are like Bhagavad Gita. These books are like Yoga Sutra written by the Yogi Patanjali. How far you are from this Gokarna, coming here, sitting here with humbleness, with dedication, with devotion. Just your curiosity is to know something, and your quest for truth making you to come here and what's happening and studying the great Yoga Sutras. That book is having permanent value, so that still we are studying. These kind of books are valuable books, spiritual books one have to study. If any one of the verse, any one of the sutra of yoga philosophy, any one of the verse of Bhagavad Gita, if we start reading any hymn of the Veda, if you start reading daily, it is becoming Swadhyaya. It is connecting to that concerned deity, concerned energy. That energy will manifest in front of you with form also. If you meditate on Shiva, Shiva will manifest you in the form also, can guide you. If you meditate on Bible, that energy if you are seeking can come in the form of a Christ and can help you possible. So that the energy taking the human form or can take any form and come to you and can help you and can guide you. But that energy is the power of your mind, we should not forget. The power of your mind is only coming as Christ, coming as Krishna, coming as different gods, and manifestation of gods happening because of the power of your own mind, and that you will realize in the name of Swadhyaya by self-study. Self-study is the self-awareness. With that awareness, connecting to that all the auspicious texts and reminding and remembering all the time about the self. We need to remember always we are none other than self. This self-remembering happening by Swadhyaya, it is a self-study. One need to have a spiritual diary in their life. By making a spiritual diary in your life, you can write there how much time you are practicing Yama in a day, how much time you are practicing Niyama in a day, how much time you are practicing Asana in a day, and what kind of progress you achieved through Pranayama, and what are the obstacles you are getting in Dhyana, meditation, and have you ever experienced Samadhi, what kind of certain mystical things you experienced in a day, and how are you balancing all these things, and all these things you can write in the spiritual diary. The name of the diary is self-analyzing, through which you can study and you can understand yourself through that. And the progress what you are achieving also will be recorded in the diary, through which you can understand 2 years back how you are, now how you are, and what kind of changes happening in you will be known if you read these kind of books. And when there is a declinement in our energy, that also will be known. If there is a progress in you, that will be also you will be known. So recording the things happening in our life is most important. Becoming the spiritual diary, that is Swadhyaya, becoming self-study, and also reading great scriptures in your life. And if you read the whole scripture also, it is becoming Swadhyaya. If you go to the Mathura, the place close to the Delhi, the place called Vrindavan, they all read the Bhagavat. Srimad Bhagavat they read. That is a sacred scripture they want to read. And if you go to the certain kind of places like Dwaraka, they were all every day in every home they read many of the houses and surrendering to the 15th chapter of Gita they recite. In Rishikesh there is a Gita ashram. In that Gita ashram they recite the whole Bhagavad Gita, all the 700 verses every day. Every day whole Bhagavad Gita they read. That is the glory, that is the auspiciousness. In the name of Swadhyaya, in India, in the Gokarna now, the whole Rig Veda is getting recited early mornings. The first chapter of Rig Veda. Yes, yes. So this is Swadhyaya. The early morning what we are doing by invoking the Purnamada Purnamidam mantra, the Guru mantra, and all the mantras we are doing, and we are chanting the Yoga Sutras, it is Swadhyaya Yoga. It is none other than Swadhyaya. Ishvara Pranidhana, doing all the actions and thinking that we are not the doer. As long as you think that I am the doer, it is that the I consciousness, I am consciousness brings you suffering. If you're thinking that time, we are under the time bound, we are all under the chains of time. We are all controlled by the time. Time is that controlling you, me, everyone. Believing that the time is God, believing that the time is pure consciousness, surrendering to the time and surrendering all your actions to the consciousness, and if you live, this is called Ishvara Pranidhana. Do the action with one hand and give it up the other to the pure consciousness. That's what Swami Vivekananda says to us. This is called Ishvara Pranidhana. So cleanliness the yogi needs, fresh cleanly environment a yogi needs, and fresh energy he needs. Inside and outside one should be clean. And also yogi should have a very simple lifestyle that is called contentment. A yoga practitioner should always think about purification. He should keep always the surroundings pure, and he should keep all the time his mind and body pure. Certain kind of practices he should do also, certain kind of workouts we have to do for purification too. These rules are fixed. Those who want to be a yogi, those who really want to experience the power of asana, those who want to live a very good life, those who want real happiness, those who never want suffering in their life, have to follow all these fixed rules. These rules are fixed. Fixed not for certain caste or certain group or certain creed or for certain gender or for certain nation. No. No, no. These rules and regulations are for everyone. These yama and niyama are just not for certain kind of group of people, no. These yama and niyamas are for jati desa kala samayana vacchinnau sarva bhauma mahavratam. Patanjali explained like that. Jati means not explained for certain caste. Patanjali is rational in mind, open in mind. He was not saying this for certain kind of sect of people or for Vedic tradition and culture is the open tradition and culture which is universal in nature, and with open mind he was giving a call. It was the call by the yogi Patanjali addressing for the whole mankind. This is the message for whole mankind to be happy. These are yamas and niyamas. This is yama and niyama. Yama makes you fearless. Niyama makes you desireless, and through which one can shine high in the practices. These are the self-restraints. Jati means not for certain kind of caste or creed, no. Desha, no, it is not saying for certain kind of a place only, no. For all groups of people all over the world, for whole humanity. Jati means for all humanity. Desha, in all cases, at all places, at all times, at all events, at all events, at all places, at all times, and in all cases, for whole humanity, this yama and niyama are required. I have a different mindset, so some of the limb I can skip, no. There is no possibility to skip any one of the rules here. To practice a yogi, first we need to understand how to practice them. Many of the practitioners, they will get a confusion related to the word continence, what it means, what is brahmacharya, how to understand this. They will get a different kinds of understanding and what is a greed and how to work out on that. And for this you need an explanation of this. These rules and regulations have given, it's okay, but how to understand non-violence, how to understand truthfulness, how to apply non-stealing in our life, these are not the rules and regulations just saying these words and feeling happy, no. We have to apply it in our daily life. How do you have to apply that in our daily life and how to make our life happy is the point. Now, my teaching is based on explanation of how to practice these practices in our daily life and how to make our life happy. Today, I am going to speak on non-violence first. I have 10 more minutes time. So, I am connecting you to that, the first sublimb of Yama, non-violence. Before going to do that, we are going to chant the 8 limbs of yoga, the sutra related to, and also the sutras related to Yama, Niyama and Asana we are chanting today, because these are the 3 steps we have to follow simultaneously. Okay? Get ready for that. Sit comfortably and say the 8 limbs of yoga now. Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhayo, Astavangani. Yogi Patanjali recommended for us non-violence. Means here we have to understand the Sanskrit words. With that we will go through. Ahimsa means not himsa. Himsa means violence. If you add the prefix a to the word himsa, it is becoming ahimsa. The word is called apratyaya. Ahimsa means no. Saying that no violence. So non-violence. Himsa means violence. Certain don'ts, Yama means certain don'ts we should not practice in our life. Certain kind of do's and don'ts are called Yama and Niyama. What are the do's? What are the don'ts? That we will learn in the name of Yama and Niyama. So what are the don'ts? That is himsa we should not do. What we have to do? Ahimsa we have to do. That is non-violence. Non-violence in thoughts, non-violence in words, non-violence in deeds, recommended by the Yogi Patanjali. Verbally harming others by using our tongue as a weapon, hurting others and troubling others, making others unhappy, and these are all coming as verbal violence. It is also violence. Verbally we are making others unhappy. Verbally we are harming others. It is becoming verbal violence. And mentally if you think of a certain person, is that person have to be punished. That have to be happen like that only. If you are thinking someone negatively inside, that something violence have to be happen for them, that is also avoided for such a person. Mentally thinking about violence is also violence. And physically harming someone is called violence. Causing harm to humans, causing harm to animals, causing harm to birds, causing harm to bugs, causing harm to the 5 elements is also considered as violence. When the thoughts are polluted, then we are seeing the whole pollution alone. Soil pollution, water pollution, air pollution, ether pollution, and all this pollution is happening because of thought pollution. So thoughts first need to be under control. Non-violent thoughts we should not encourage. Man is having an animal instinct inside. Violence is an inherited nature of a human. As human being is coming from many species lives, in every human there is an animal. In every human there is a human. In every human there is again a divine instinct. Unfortunately, we are bringing the bells for animal instincts in the human body. We are not ringing the bells for divinity. If we start ringing the bells for divinity inside, that is the beauty. That connects you to equanimity. Yes. Equanimity is yoga. Connecting to divinity and going beyond divinity and remaining in the equanimity, establishing in that equanimity is yoga. We have to eliminate cruelty in our life. There should not be any cruelty in our life. The cruelty is violence. That violence is harmful. We should always play violin for non-violence. Play violin for non-violence. Don't play violin for non-violence. Don't play violin for violence. No. 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 You see, in India, there are cockfights. Two cocks they will fight, especially in the festival season. The Sankranti is a very famous festival in South India. They bring two cocks, and the two cocks will fight, cockfight. Human beings enjoy when they fight. And one cock, when it kicks another cock, they declare it is the victory of this cock. After that, they cook both the cocks and they eat. Even though it get victory, they will eat it. Finally, both were going into the stomach, fortunately. Why that cock, which was getting, that cock which was in the fight, leaving the body, was dead. It is producing certain kind of hormones, so that when they cook, it was very tasty for them. I never had a non-vegetarian in my life, even fish, egg, no. So I don't know. Directly, indirectly, maybe it went inside the stomach, I don't know. But I never directly had this in my life, no. Is it possible to be 100% non-violent in our life? Is a question. How to be non-violent in our life is a question. The very cream and essence of Mother India is non-violence. India attained freedom because of non-violent movement. Mahatma Gandhi, who is the father of our nation, you can see him on the currency notes. A person with shaved head is Mahatma Gandhi. And he is the father of the nation. He practiced non-violence. Many great enlightened masters practiced non-violence. They encouraged non-violence. Martin Luther King practiced non-violence. Mahatma Gandhi practiced non-violence. Jesus Christ practiced non-violence. Non-violence. Buddha practiced non-violence. Jinnah, Mahavira practiced non-violence. Non-violence is the quintessence of yoga philosophy. The great Vedic texts like Chandogya Upanishad, the Taittiriya Upanishad, and the Bhagavad Gita, they were all saying non-violence is only the way. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. There is no highest virtue than ahimsa. It is the greatest virtue. It is the greatest gift. It is the greatest happiness for everyone, that everyone have to follow. Ahimsa. If you see the Indian flag, in that Indian flag you are seeing three colors. They are green, white and saffron. In between you are seeing a wheel. How many have you seen the Indian flag? I think you all saw this Indian flag. In that you have seen a wheel. In that wheel, how many spokes are there in that wheel? There are 24 spokes in that wheel, if you count. All the 24 spokes talking on dharma, on the virtues only. These spokes speaking a lot on ahimsa, non-violence. These spokes meant for non-violence. Yes. The Ashoka was a great ruler long back in India. He turned as a Buddhist monk later. And it was because of Ashoka we were seeing many trees and many Buddhist monasteries. He was a great meditator. He was an emperor having strong rajas in nature. With power hunger, he conquered many kingdoms and he ruled and he killed many kings. And one day he got a realization because of the bloodshed. Finally realized that happiness is not there in this power hunger. The real happiness is within. Once he got realized that, he repented. When the repentance started, he turned as a Buddhist monk and turned as a non-violent. He who killed many thousands of people started weeping and finally connected to inner happiness. And then for his whole life, he practiced non-violence. And because of his greatest virtue of non-violence, as a symbolical representation, the Indian flag is always remembering him as a token of love and gratitude. And by his great word sayings to for inspiration, in Indian flag you are seeing 24 spokes. That is, they are standing on dharma. There are bullfights also very famous. Bullfights. Two bulls will fight. Bullfights are also very famous. I am coming to another topic now. So, and it is that how much these ancestors, how much these great non-violent practitioners speaking about non-violence, and violence is an inherited nature of human beings, they are harming. So, still now, even though this kind of great significance is there, the very great wisdom is there in India, the practice of this non-violence we are seeing not in a authentic style. The practitioners are less now. Wisdom is beautiful, inspiration is good, but if you say that how many practitioners are there, such kind of non-violent practitioners in India, everywhere you see the corner, there are meat shops, there are chicken shops, and they are killing the animals and selling them and making money. Animal slaughtery is not encouraged by our ancestors in the books. We are not having the right to kill any animal, no. You should ask a question that if you are not killing the chicken and if you are not killing the meat, and that population will grow, and if that population grows, who is there to eat them? You don't need to worry about that. There are again some animals in the human body, already they are doing that. And again, as you are a human, if you realize, we should not do that. If you realize that you are a human, we should not do that animal harm, no. The most important thing of us is connecting to that non-violence in our life, and how to practice this non-violence in our life 100%. How is it possible? At the time of walking, we kill many bugs. At the time of drinking, some virus is going inside, and at the time of brooming also, we kill many bugs. And so, how can we practice 100% non-violence in our life? Is it possible? Such kind of questions will come in our life. For this reason, the Vedic tradition is very flexible and giving as a beautiful idea. Unknowingly, there is a violence as we born as humans. Some certain things are not in our control. Certain kind of violence is happening naturally. But voluntarily, we should be aware when you are doing the action. Involuntarily, certain things are happening, you are not responsible for that. But voluntarily, we should not do any violence. We are not having any right to kill the lives of any being. No, no, no. There is a concept of Pancha Yajna, Brahma Yajna, Bhota Yajna, Manusha Yajna, Pitru Yajna, and Rishi Yajna, means sacrifices. If those human beings who practice all the 5 sacrifices in their life can overcome from all these sorts of non-violence possible. So, how to bring all these 5 sacrifices in our life and how to practice non-violence, we see tomorrow. And how to understand this non-violence very deep, so we will discuss tomorrow. Then tomorrow's topic is about non-violence truth, and also I will cover the remaining parts of Yama, and next day we will see the Niyama, and we are going to discuss all these limbs leisurely, no hurries. Thank you very much for listening to me. I am concluding the session with one Om chant.